Hey friends, hope y'all are having a good Wednesday evening. Welcome to this week's version of Wednesday Sessions, at least beginning in my office, but we'll also hear from Tyler Johnson tonight, some about youth ministry. Truth is, this is the second time I've recorded this, and who knows if this one will even take. The first time I was outside and interrupted by some raindrops, so you'll just have to take my word that it's a nice, pretty day with overcast, and but you'll just have to envision what the view from the prayer point looks like this week. Maybe I can catch you another time. We are having some groups that are beginning to have the opportunity to meet here on the campus outside. With the current spike in cases, the response team has paused any indoor activities or meetings, but we are having the conversation in small groups around race and reconciliation. A number of those have met here on the campus, 2 this week. And so those are working well, those outdoor groups meeting, and we've had one Sunday school class also gather up in a group of 10 or 12 outside under the covered drive. And so if that's something you want to talk to us about, we know it's difficult as this goes on, not being together, and all of us really desperately longing to find our way back and continue to try to manage that and how we can do it in the best way for all of us. A word about the small groups. There is one of our small groups that didn't start last week that will actually begin next week. And it is an on-site group, room for about a dozen. And we have probably at least 4 or 5 slots left in that group. And so if you're interested in being part of that group's going to have some conversations around reading different articles. They're beginning with Dr. King's letter from the Birmingham jail. And so I believe, I'll tell you what, if you're interested in that, just email me. I'm not even certain at this moment what that day of the week is. It seems like it was on next Thursday was their first meeting, but email me if you're interested. It would be like 6:30 to 7:30 in the evening. And if that's something you'd like to take a look at, let me know and I can get you a few more details about that. A word about our mission engagements. We still continue to, we've paid so many of our mission partners forward to kind of help them, especially those that are right in the midst of doing a fair bit of work that's related to the COVID crisis we're in the midst of, the pandemic. So that we continue that path. We're ahead of our giving with our mission partners, and heard from one of them just in recent days about the challenge they have. So we're having. So because of the giving that's been so faithful and strong, we've been able to help everybody at every turn. And so on behalf of the church, and I'll express gratitude for that. And along those lines as well, this is the second Wednesday of the month, which means it's a firehouse shelter night. We're not able to take our RAs down there, obviously, at this point, but we do continue to provide food for the firehouse shelter in our rotation. Elise Pittman has done a lot of pulling that together, making that happen with Jan Deegan as well, and facilitating that. So we'll be making a pizza delivery and drop off tonight at the firehouse shelter. And thought you might be glad to note that is continuing in these times. Our prayer list, we've not had, remember you can find that online. And if you've misplaced the password, just email us to the church, call us, and we'll update you on that. But you can locate that. There aren't any additions to our hospital list, and we're grateful for that. We do have a death in a family of a church member, Tom Fernickies, lost his mother last week in Arlington, Virginia. And so we want to remember Tom and Himes and their family in these days. And then, of course, we've had so many losses in recent weeks that there are a number of families that are still very close to that loss and are grieving. So remember those, including the Stewart and Elliott and Phillips family. Tyson's memorial service was just this past weekend, the family service. So remember those and many others, pardon me, who are grieving in this time. I'll turn to a psalm for a little encouragement tonight, and then I'm hoping that we can manage an interview with one of our 6th graders. So you'll know in a minute, it'll either click to me and a 6th grader, or it'll go directly to Tyler. So little suspense, we'll see if that works or not. But to wrap up this time, let me read for us Psalm 61. Hear my cry, O God. Listen to my prayer. From the end of the earth, I call to you when my heart is faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. For you are my refuge, a strong tower against the enemy. Let me abide in your tent forever and find refuge under the shelter of your wings. For you, O God, have heard my promises. You have given me the heritage of those who honor your name. Thanks be to God. All right. Well, like I said, it's me and a sixth grader coming up next with a short conversation, checking in, or we'll hear some directly from Tyler regarding youth ministry. Until next time. Hey, Madeline. Thanks
Hello.
for joining me on Wednesday sessions. Glad to be back together. I was just mentioned earlier that this is our second shot at this, maybe even third, as we've, but I appreciate you taking the time and dropping back in.
No
I don't want to
problem.
presume that when I say Madeline that everybody knows who I'm talking about. So I will remind folks, this is Logan and Sarah Taylor's youngest daughter, Madeline, who's going into 7th grade, younger sister of Ava, and of course, granddaughter of Crawford and Taylor, and niece of Merrill and Jason. And so that won't cover all your family connections, but lots of family in the church and plenty of other friends. So thanks for coming out on a Wednesday and chatting with me a little bit. Just checking in. So how are things going at the Taylor house? What can you tell us?
It's good. It's boring, but we're doing good. How are y'all?
We've been doing fairly well. You know, I have, probably like most people, we have at our house, we've done things and watched things and that we wouldn't have normally done. You know, Maggie and I in particular, Luke and Melissa join us a little bit, but Maggie and I in particular are working on a puzzle right now, and it's a 3,000 piece puzzle, and maybe we shouldn't have started it. I mean, it's behemoth. It is so large. It's taking us, it's a sea underwater. Yeah, anyway. Check with me in January and I'll let you know if we got it finished.
Got it.
So, but other than that, we also watched Hamilton the other day. Have you seen the?
I've heard it's really good. My mom has watched it a couple times.
Yes, Maggie and I have seen it twice, and we saw it in New Orleans, I guess last year, and so enjoyed it a ton. And so Maggie was looking forward for it coming back out. And she and I pulled the chairs over in front of the television and got some popcorn and kind of reenacted our own version of it. So, and that probably wouldn't have happened, right? So there are some neat things. What so for you, what's in the midst of this kind of rearranged schedule? You were saying earlier, your whole summer's been different, right? So how's that look different for you?
Well, school was cut short, and we thought it was just going to be 2-3 weeks off, and then they cut it completely. And online school was different. It was just a bizarre experience. And like you were saying, we've gotten to do a lot of things that we usually probably wouldn't have gotten to do. Like I've played card games with my family, board games, watched a lot of movies. So that's been really nice to just have that quality time without people running out because they have other things to do.
Yeah, you're right. You got a lot of our regular activities and things are gone, right? So it does give us more quality time, as you say. However, I do remember you saying as we started this, you're feeling kind of bored. So sometimes the quality time is great, but you not that you get too much quality time, but it's like there's no connecting with anybody outside your family's hard.
Well, thank goodness for technology. I've been FaceTiming 24/7 with all my friends, so that's been really fun. So.
Yeah, not quite the same though as being in the same room with them or getting in the car or going to dance or whatever. No hugs, right? So
no hugs.
Yeah, and that's a pretty big trade-off during this period. I wonder, if the year of 2021 may be the year of the most hugs in our nation's history. I think when everybody gets back, there's going to be a lot of hugging going on.
Yes.
Because we've all been having to, keep 6 feet apart. And That's been so strange, that's it's what I hear from so many folks here at the church is they're dying
Yeah.
to get back together. People just so craving being able to be together and sit in the same room. And not everybody even feels comfortable doing something like this, doing a Zoom conversation or FaceTime. And so some of our church members have had a really hard time connecting with other folks. They might make phone calls or things. And
Yes.
that's been really tough. You were saying we went into this thinking maybe a couple of weeks, right? And now we're, in 3 months and
Over
really
100 days, I think.
100+ days. Wow. Yeah. Who would have thought? And we're not really sure, when we get to stop counting,
Yeah. It's scary,
So,
but
yeah, scary and a little depressing, right? It's kind of like,
yes.
why would this happen? And I'd like my normal life back. And it's a trick to try to find the blessing in it, right? As you were saying earlier, there's plenty of good things that are happening around us and things that maybe wouldn't have happened otherwise, but it's not always to spot those or to even pursue them, especially after 100 days, right? You probably, like my house, there was a lot early on. You're like, oh yeah, we're playing cards and stuff. Maybe not so much anymore.
And now we're just like, hello.
Yes. Yeah. Earlier, we talked about, in our first version of this, we talked about your Sunday school class, and you all are getting together some on Zoom, right?
So we've been getting together almost every Sunday. So that's been really nice to see all my friends from church and to read with everyone and learn our lesson. And we have a game master. So one of the Sixers gets to pick out some games before we do our lesson. And so the kids get to interact with each other. So that's been really fun also.
And y'all are doing all that on Zoom, right? And video connection.
We are.
That's pretty cool. Lucas, Dorian, and Mindy Bodenham are your teachers, and they've done a great job pulling that off.
They really have.
I wish I was in their class. I mean, it's been I've seen a little bit of what y'all are doing. I was talking to Lucas about it and Mindy as well. And it sounds like a fun class to be in. And then you're getting ready to start youth ministry.
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking, but I'm really excited.
And you're starting youth ministry in a year where it's not going to look anything like it has in the past, right?
Yeah. So that'll be a strange experience. We're the guinea pigs.
Yeah, in a way you are. Hopefully you'll be the last time that we have to ever kind of manage life like this. But it'll be a strange way to start youth ministry. The good news is youth ministry, you've got 6 years in there. So you're entering your 7th grade and you'll have a great story, right? It's like, I started youth ministry when in the midst of all this,
the time
craziness.
of COVID.
Yes. You'll be the COVID class, the youth ministry class. Well, it sounds like you're managing this well enough, though. And Tyler's going to talk behind us a little bit about youth ministry, so I got to leave him some time tonight. But while we wrap up this, I mean, do you feel like hopefully this isn't, we may have already covered some of this ground, but I'm wondering if you were thinking about what this has taught you or anything you've learned from this. Does anything come to the top of your mind?
Yes. So I've noticed a lot of my friends and myself, we have been teaching ourselves new things. I've been reteaching myself ukulele and piano. I've been picking things out by ear. I started French classes on Zoom, and I started voice lessons. So those have been really fun to just try something new out of your day-to-day routine of doing nothing.
Those are some really cool things. Although I feel a little bad because I'm trying to think of the things I've been doing, and I'm not sure that they measure up to French classes. I'm cooking a little bit more. Maybe I watch a
Not
Julia
very good
Child.
at it, though. My sister is much better at them.
At French?
Yes, doing the lessons.
Well, you've got time to learn.
Yeah.
So,
Quite a bit of time.
That's right. Well, that's really cool. And
Mhm.
I hope I'll look forward to. I know we've played ukulele a little bit together in the past, so maybe
Mhm.
we can down the
Yeah.
road we'll do a little ukulele playing. So thanks for doing this today,
No
Madeline. And
problem. It was
I
really
look forward
fun.
to when, yeah, I look forward when we can kind of be in the same space together, whether
Mhm.
it's 6 feet across or not. So, all right.
Yes.
Have a good night. Talk to you later.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
VHBC family, hope you all are doing well. Hope you're being safe and finding some rest and relaxation in this crazy time we find ourselves in. I'm so thankful to Gary and the rest of the staff for giving me this opportunity to share with you all tonight as some of our folks get some much needed rest and relaxation. I wanted to spend a few moments tonight talking about youth ministry, why I like youth ministry, why I'm called to youth ministry, why I love youth ministry. And it's not just the crazy games, the crazy antics, the places we get to go and things we get to do. A lot of the deep rooted, um, bare bones of youth ministry are really interesting and I feel deeply called towards. You may not know, but youth ministry gets its early starts in the Industrial Revolution when young men are flocking to the inner cities during this industrial boom working in factories. They would work 6 days a week, crazy hours, and then on Sundays they would just kind of gallivant and roam the city. And a lot of churches saw that as an opportunity to bring students, not students, young men in and teach them the Bible and give them a church home. A lot of them were away from their families and needed an anchor, and so churches were that for a lot of these folks. And as things developed in the Industrial Revolution and child labor laws and the modern American work week kind of shifted, so did youth ministry. It went into this evangelical conversion model of ministry. That's where we get a lot of parachurch organizations like the YMCA, the YWCA, Youth for Christ, and the Billy Graham movement, Young Life, which is still around today. And now we kind of see as youth ministry as an in-house model for most churches. The first church I served in Texas, not far from where Pastor Gary served, just about 15 minutes down the road. Um, I was the worship and youth pastor. It was one of those 2-for-1 sort of deals. And the odd thing about it was the average age in that church was well beyond any age for parents to have teenagers. The church found it infinitely important to have a youth ministry. So some nights we would just welcome kids off the street, and some nights, we wouldn't have anything. But it was important for the church to offer something to give students a home for biblical instruction, for community, and for growth. And so that's what I love about youth ministry is that you can take students who have been given the building blocks of faith that Nancy does so well. The first couple of classes that I've received and that I've had the opportunity to chat with and work with know the Bible so well because of the great work that Nancy does. And so what I can do is I can take that and we can expand on it. You know the stories. How do we live the stories? How do we live like Christ? How do we have this servant's heart, this servant mentality, this desire for the least of these among us? And that's what I find extraordinarily fun and life giving. One of the more fun things that I get to talk to students about is that when Jesus calls the disciples, they're from our best guess. There's no red ink in the Bible that speaks to this, but we believe that a lot of the disciples are in their late teens and early 20s. That when Christ calls them, that they are not much older than our students now. And so that Christ can call us at any time and at any age. And it's really fun to see them work through that. God can be calling them even now in this moment. And it's not something that happens when they grow up, so to speak. And that's really a lot of the heart of youth ministry, is seeing kids go through adolescence and discover their likes and their passions and what they're good at and their strengths, and constantly trying to connect them to how they can use those things towards serving the community, to being part of this fellowship, to finding God's call for their life, and teaching them that God's call for their life isn't always vocational ministry, that God calls all of us to something, and to use our God given gifts and our desires and patching those with our perceived of our perception of what the world's greatest need is. Feel like God gives us those deep rooted convictions, and connecting students to those things is deeply important to what we do here. Another thing is that we model what it's like to be a part of a church body. Um, though I'm in a student building, it is not a silo, it is connected to the rest of the church. And so that's why you see students read and worship. That's why you see students do serve. That's why we see students lead. That they are not junior members of our congregation, but a vital part of who we are. Some alarming statistics out of the Fuller Youth Institute tell us that 50% of all students who graduate high school and graduate from youth and student ministry will walk away from the church. And that's very scary, and there's been a lot of studies on that. Though there has been some research that says when these students start getting full-time jobs and having families of their own, we recover a good bit of that, but not all of it. And so my constant thought, my drive, if you will, is how do we, that remaining 20-30% that we potentially will never see again, how do we retain that? And I believe that's done through modeling healthy church in student ministry, knowing that everyone has a role, and there are not junior members, there are not them and us, but we are one body working together and creating a firm community, a solid community that students can actually rely upon, and not just some superficial place where we have a great time and eat food every week. And that's what's been really good about, if you can call anything about a pandemic good, what's been really good about this, and it's taken all the frills away from student ministry. It's taken the crazy, messy games. It's taken the trips. It's taken the any attractional flash out of what we typically do to move through summer. Essentially, it's taken all that away. So it's forced us to really dig deep into engaging faith, and that's been my spiel through this whole since March 15th is you have to engage your faith. While we'll meet via Zoom, and now we're meeting outside around a fire, socially distant, wearing masks, of course, is the realization that there's a personal responsibility to engaging faith. And I feel like sometimes in student ministry, we provide that atmosphere for them where we feel like they are engaging their faith, but once they step into post-secondary education or the workforce, military, et cetera, what have you, that they don't know how to engage their faith because it's been engaged for them. But through all of this refining period, we've found ways to engage faith by asking open-ended questions, by engaging with students one-on-one or in small groups, and working through books of the Bible. We're engaging faith, teaching how to engage faith when they don't have this insular building around them, this built-in programming. And that's been really fun to see students learn to engage faith for themselves. Their their faith is similar to their parents' faith, but it's not their parents' faith, right? And that's part of the confession um, we make when we are baptized, is saying, I'm taking ownership of this. And so through this prolonged adolescence, we've kind of held on to, you still, your faith is, still protected in your parents' faith. But through this pandemic time, it's, how do you take your faith seriously? How are you engaging what's going on in our world right now from a faith perspective? We've talked a lot about lenses. We're looking through what is happening with racial struggle and tragedy and pandemic viruses. How do we look at that through the eyes of the lens of faith? How does your faith speak to that? And so we're really working those faith muscles right now. And that's what I love deeply about student ministry, is that your 7th graders will look at this differently than your 12th graders. And you're seeing them grow and seeing them think critically. And my hope, and that the product of that will be that when they graduate and we give them their swag bag of gifts and bless them and send them to college, that they will have an inherent desire and need to join a community and know how to step into a community and what healthy community looks like. We model healthy community in this place. We model loving community, a community that invites and shares openly. And so that's what I love about student ministry, is that we have all of these things that we get to engage and we get to explore, and it never looks the same. Every couple of years the faces dramatically change, and so your approach inherently has to change. And I am excited to be here, and I am excited in this time to see how our students are engaging their faith. We've come along, youth ministry has come a long way from getting kids off the streets in the Industrial Revolution, or packing students in stadiums to hear somebody speak. But we're now in this relational disciple building phase, trend of youth ministry, and it's really interesting to see how that moves forward. So, what does that mean to you, the parent of an empty nester, the grandparent that doesn't have a student in ministry in the student ministry anymore? What does that mean? So what for you all? Well, I hope this is an invitation to pray for our students. They've seen a lot in these past few months and the past few years. I invite you to pray. I invite you to get involved and see what's happening here. Teenagers can be scary. They say some weird things and do some weird stuff, but man, they're cool. They're fun. They are life-giving. Get involved. If you wanted to teach, if you wanted to see what's going on here, there's a place for you to do that. And when things get back to normal, whatever that is, there's always a place to plug in and bless students and disciple students and see how God lives and works through them. It is really incredible to see the growth as they are of a person and their spiritual growth. And so there's a lot of exciting things happening here and now. God is at work. And I'm excited for the future, and I'm excited for now to see how these students handle this, and knowing that we'll be right there every step of the way. I hope this has been interesting for you all, and I hope we can partner in ministry together soon. Grace and peace.